Do you know that the richest people in the world today are 75% entrepreneurs? 15% of them are actually investors. 7% of them are actually those that inherited wealth. 3% are actors and sportsmen and entertainers. And 0% are actually employee. What we're saying here is that employees too can actually be successful if you have financial education. We are actually adopting what I call free market economy system in Nigeria and some other parts of the world. And it is very important that if you don't have financial education, you might not be able to fit in well in this economic system, because we are in a system where the winner takes all. And if you don't have this financial education, you might not be able to have what we call financial independence. You see, most people that actually belong to the class of the lower class and the middle class, there are some certain things that are actually peculiar or very unique with them. And that thing is that when the people or those that are low income earners earn money, they spend the money immediately and they spend it on lifestyle. And the middle class, anytime they earn money, they spend the money on rebusting their credit cards so that they can be able to have access to more credit loans or facilities. But for the rich class, anytime they earn money, they actually invest the money, they make the money to work for them. So which class actually do you belong to? Are you in the lower class? Are you in the middle class? Or are you in the upper class? Like I said earlier, those that actually controls the world's economy today are the entrepreneurs, the investors, and those that actually inherited wealth. But unfortunately, the employees do not feature in these characteristics or in this picture. So what category are you in? So there are some certain principles of wealth, and for you to be able to have these basic certain principles of wealth, or what can actually catapult you to becoming rich in life, is that the first thing is that you need what we call financial education. Financial education will actually catapult you. Financial education will actually inform you, educate you, enlighten you on how you can best use your money to make more money for yourself. We're not saying here that when you earn the money, you should spend the money immediately, but rather you should divide the money into three parts, where we have spending, savings, and investment. You spend part of the money, you also save some part of the money for emergency, and you invest the rest of the money. So it depends on the equation you are looking at, maybe 70, 30, 10, or 50, 30, 20. It depends on your style and it depends on your taste. Now, you see, becoming rich or becoming wealthy, actually, there are some certain advice that you actually need that can actually help you in this regard. So it is possible to be financially rich in our contemporary time in a free market economy system when you have a clear, articulated, and pragmatic plans into place. And as a youth or as an individual, there are some certain things that you need to look into, and that's why I'll be looking at my honest advice to those that actually desire to be financially independent. One of my advice for those that want to be financially independent or want what I call financial freedom is that you need to find your freedom figure. You need to find your freedom figure. Now, what do I mean by a freedom figure? By freedom figure, we're talking about the amount of money you actually need to live your life without worrying about money. The amount of money you actually need to live your life without worrying about money. And what are we saying here? What we're simply saying is that you need to have a target in life. You need to have a plan, or put a strategic plan into place that can actually help you or aid you in becoming financially independent. For example, you are a working class and you are actually working, you are paid a salary every month. What do? Once you earn your money at the end of every financial month, what you need to do is that you need to set some certain amount of money aside as an investment. You need to set aside some certain amount of money aside for investment. That is, for example, if you are earning, maybe in Nigeria now, you are earning about 300,000 naira, you can decide that you are going to set aside 100,000 naira for yourself for investment. The rest can go into savings, and the rest can also go into spending. Savings, don't forget, is actually meant for a period of emergency, because life actually happens. So once you earn the money, you should be able to divide the money into spending, savings, and the investment. So you need to find your freedom figure. That is, if you are able to save 100,000 naira in every financial month, you should be able to be consistent in that investment plan. That is, every month you should be able to invest 100,000 naira for a period of 12 months. At the end of that period of 12 months, that means that you have 1.2 million naira. So you must have your freedom figure. That is the amount of money or target that you intend to achieve at the end of the day. What we're saying here in a nutshell is that you need to set aside some part of money that can guarantee you your freedom in the future. Like I used to tell myself every day, how much do I need if I actually want to retire? How much do I really need if I'm not working again? How much or target do I need to achieve for me to actually retire and enjoy all the money I've actually invested? Sometimes it depends on what you actually wanted. Sometimes some people will say 30 million naira, I can retire with 30 million naira. Some people might even plan for 50 million naira. Some people can plan for 100 million naira, depending on how much you have. Now, someone will ask me, how can I raise 100 million naira? How can I raise 50 million naira? How can I raise 30 million naira? How can I raise 20 million naira before I retire? It is very, very simple. What do you do? Every time you take that salary every month, you must set aside certain amount of money for investment. That money is not supposed to be touched. You leave that money alone and put it into investment and watch your money grow over time. That's what we're saying here. So once invested correctly, it will generate enough passive income for you. That is, once you started investing that money, once you start putting that money into investment, that money will begin to generate for you. That money will begin to grow for you. And when you're talking about investment here, there are so many things you can actually invest your money into. You can invest your money into money markets or mutual funds. You can invest your money into stocks. You can also invest your money into rental estate. You can invest your money into crypto. You can invest your money into gold. You can invest your money into so many things, rental properties and the rest of them, that can actually generate you passive income. Don't forget that when we're talking about investment, it is something that entails what I call a decade of sacrifice. You need to consistently build it over time and watch your money compound over time. So if you are able to consistently invest money for the next 10 years, that means that you can be rest assured that after 10 years, you can actually decide to retire and retire financially independent. You can retire gallantly. At that point, you don't need all those things that actually denied yourself while you're actually investing. You can have access to those things now. Now, imagine you are able to invest for a period of 10 years. That means that in the next 10 years, for example, you are able to invest 20 million naira. In the next 10 years, your money is going to compound into times 2. You might be lucky enough, or you will be able to have like 43 million naira, or 40 million naira, or 38 million naira. What am I saying here when I say lucky enough? You see, in our contemporary time, we have what we call inflation. And inflation actually varies over one particular time or the other. I can remember when I started my investment, I was earning 11% per annum as interest. Later on, it increased to 14%. Later on, it increased to 16%. Later on, it increased to 23 point something percent. Now it has dropped to 19.99%. So it actually varies. The more inflation goes up, the more you earn. But when inflation comes down, the amount can actually reduce. Like someone was asking me in the office that, oh, the money I actually invested is dropping, and I told the person that the prevalent market prices or prevalent market conditions coupled with inflation and other conditions will actually determine how much you are earning every day. And that is why it is very important that you must consistently fund your investment over and over again, so that at the end of the day your money can actually compound higher. Number two things that you need to do if you want to be financially independent or you want to have financial freedom is that you can actually hack your life. That's what I call number two, hack your life. Someone will say hacking is not a good thing, that hacking is done by those that are actually into scam and the rest of them. What we're saying here is not about scam. What we're talking about here is what is having financial independence. And what do I mean by hacking your life? It entails looking into or looking out for areas that are actually creating holes in your pocket. There are so many things that can actually create holes in our pocket. Do you get it now? There are so many things that can actually create holes in our pocket. And one of them is that when we spend money recklessly or extravagantly, or we spend money without even making plan for that money, that can create holes in our pocket. Going to nightclubs, buying liabilities and not buying assets can actually create holes in our pocket. So you need to be able to identify those areas that are actually creating holes in your pocket, and once you are able to identify them, you try to seal that hole or you try to avoid those things. There are so many things, or there are so many things that can call liabilities: buying designer wears, buying expensive wristwatches, buying expensive cars, living expensive apartments, and spending money recklessly without any form of plan. So sometimes we make bad financial decisions in our life that actually affect our pocket and also create holes in our pocket. So you should be able to have a template on how you are actually spending your money on regular basis. Are you the type of person that have insatiable taste for liabilities or things that will not have any value to your life? If you are able to identify them, then you stop doing those things. So hacking your life means that you should be able to identify those things that are actually creating a hole in your pocket or taking away your money. Once you identify them, you stop those things. So this means that you might be spending money on things that you do not actually need, because a lot of us are actually spending money on things we don't even need in our life, and those things create doors. They create space in our life, or create space in our in our environment or where we actually live, because they are not adding any value to our lives. So you need to avoid those things. And for example, like I said earlier, one of them is what we call car loans, because they are debt traps. They are actually financial traps. When you get a car loan, you get an expensive car. Now in Nigeria, buying a car is very expensive. Maintaining the car is very expensive. Then putting gas into that car is also very expensive. Buying cars, buying designer wristwatches, and those things that cannot actually add value to our life. So you should be able to hack your life. Avoid those things that are actually creating holes in your pocket. Then number three things which I'm going to talk about is what we call brand hacking. Brand hacking. Brand hacking. What do I mean by brand hacking? You see, in this part of our world or all over the world, there are some products that are actually called generic products. Now, when I say generic products, we are talking about products that have similar, functions or peculiarities or features and characteristics or qualities with the brand names. For example, now, we have some brand phones in Nigeria like like Samsung, like iPhones and the rest of them. They are top brands and they are very, very expensive. Now, what we're saying, for example, is that instead of you to go for iPhones that are very expensive or going for Samsung that's actually very expensive, you can decide to buy Techno or Infinix or other products that are not very, very expensive like itel. What you have done there is what we call brand hacking. So you do not need to necessarily buy products with big brand names. You don't need to buy products that are having big brands names. Like for example, you want to buy Milo, you want to buy Bonvita and the rest of them. They are very quite expensive in the market. But we have other alternatives to those products that are having brand names and are very, very expensive in the market. So you can actually go for those products. They have similarity, they have peculiarities, they have features that are similar, or they have something in common. So instead of going for those brand products, you can go for those generic products. At the end of the day, you are still going to derive the same benefit by consuming those products. Though the quality might be lower, but you can still find those ones that have higher qualities that are similar to the branded products. So you could go for generic similar ones with lower prices. So when we talk about generic products, we're saying here that generic products are much cheaper and not as expensive as the branded product. You actually save a lot of money by buying generic products instead of the branded product. So you save a lot of money by doing that. Now, this applies not only to phones, it applies to TVs, to DVDs, to so many product consumable items and the rest of them. So instead of you to buy the branded product that everybody knows, you can buy the one that are generic or have similarities with those branded products. So the little amount of money you save when you buy those generic products goes a very, very long way. For example, iPhones are very expensive in the market now. There are some iPhones that are going for 1 point something million or thereabout. But you can also go for those generic phones that you can buy for 250 or 300,000 naira. By so doing, you have been able to save about 700 to 800,000 naira at the end of the day. Now imagine saving 800 to 1 million naira by buying those generic phones. That 1 million naira or 800,000 or 700,000 can be put into something that can generate more money for you. You can invest that 700 or 600 or 300 or 250,000 or thereabouts. You can put them into other things. Imagine, for example, if Milo is actually 3,500 naira in Nigeria, you can go for something similar to Milo that can go for 1,500 or 1,700 naira. By so doing, you have been able to save a lot of money. Calculate the amount of money you are being able to save by buying those generic products. Then you are going to realize that it goes a very, very long way. Another thing that you can actually do to make you financially independent is what I call house hacking. House hacking. You see, when I talk about house hacking, it's very, very simple. A lot of us actually prefer to live in very expensive houses. I've seen some of my friends that are living in 3-bedroom flats. Some of them are not even married back then. And I asked some of them, how many people are sleeping in this room? They say, oh man, I'm the only one sleeping in this room. And I said, but what about the remaining two bedrooms that are left vacant? Who is sleeping there? We say no, nobody. Then it's a waste of money when you don't understand what house hacking is all about. So instead of you to go for those expensive houses, like for example in VI now, there are some apartments that are going for 12 million naira, 15 million, 20, 25 million naira per year. Those items or those houses, you don't need them. You can easily go for houses, maybe a room and parlor self-contained that you can easily pay, and the rest of the money you can actually use it for something else. I can remember when I was living in Abule back then, I was paying a large chunk of money goes into payment of house rent and the rest of them. And the house rent, the amount of money I was paying for my children's school fees then was so high. Then I decided to move into Ikorodu where I was paying less, and the money I was able to save at that time, I used them to finish my house. And at the end of the day, we were able to pack into the house in 2019 because I was able to change my environment and change the house that I was actually living in. I was paying more in Abulegba, but when I got to Ikorodu, I was actually paying less. So housing is one of the biggest expenses people spend a lot of money on. They spend a lot of money on housing. They want to look big, they want to look, very wealthy, they want to look rich, they want to look, flamboyant in society. They are looking at what we call the athletical materialistic society, what the society is going to think about them. But they don't think about what they are going to be in the next few years when they are not working again or they are actually retired. So a lot of people spend a lot of money on housing in our part of the world. So how you can actually reduce it You can actually eliminate this. You can actually decide to live in a small apartment and nobody's going to actually arrest you for doing that. Just like what I did those years back in 2019. I was able to complete my house. I was able to park to my house, and I'm living in that house now. I'm a landlord, and I'm very, very proud of it in a three-bedroom flat. But imagine if I was still living in Abulegba, or I decide to park to VI, I'll be paying more. Like one of my tenants that made a very big mistake. They left Ikorodu and went in and lived in a Lekki. There was time I met with this lady, and she was complaining bitterly the cost of living, the cost of housing, and the rest of them. And you can imagine they wanted to look big, but at the end of the day, they are finding it difficult to sustain the lifestyle, because that area is for the big boss, or for those that are showing the impression of being rich. But in most cases, most of them are living on credit cards and loans and the rest of them, and they are living the fictitious life, or what I call a fake life. So you could actually go for a cheaper and smaller apartment. So what we're saying here is that when you talk about house hacking, it entails going for a cheaper or smaller apartment, or even changing your location, where the amount of money you are going to pay for house rent will be reduced to the barest minimum. Another thing, which is number 5, you could do if you want to be financially independent, is what I call deal hacking. Deal hacking. When you talk about deal hacking, we are talking about the power of a negotiation. In most cases, most of us buy products in the market without even negotiating the price. For example, you want to buy something like maybe a car, and they call the car for you 15 million naira. You don't even negotiate the price, and you pay for the car. Or for example, you want to buy maybe a product, a consumable product, and they are telling you the price is actually 5,000 naira, and you pay for it without even negotiating the price. Is a very bad habit. Most of us find ourselves in this situation whereby we don't negotiate prices of what we're actually buying. Now, when you actually negotiate the price of the product, you can be able to have the best deal for yourself when you negotiate the price. When you negotiate price, it means that you are actually looking for a cheaper bargain, or a cheaper price for that product you actually wanted to buy. So if you want to make money, if you want to become financially independent, if you want to be financially buoyant, or you want to be wealthy or rich, you need to learn the power of negotiation. So deal hacking is about negotiation. Always negotiate the price of things by knowing the market value before buying those things. Now, in most cases, whenever I want to buy anything in the market, I always compare prices, even to the point of buying phones or anything I want to buy. And that's why I always have the best bargain for myself, or negotiation for myself. And if after I want to buy a phone, for example, I look at the product I want to buy, the market prices, the value of the product, the specification of the product, the durability of the product, especially the battery, and the speed of the internet, or which is called the MPS or Mbps or whatsoever. To get it, I look at all those things, then I will be able to line up series of phones. Then at the end of the day, I will go for the ones that the price is cheaper, that has durability, that has good specifications, better specification, and other things like that. And it always helped me a lot in saving money for myself, and also diverting the money into other things that are very, very important in my life. So you should be able to negotiate the price of things, and you should be able to know the market value of those things before buying them, because by so doing, you are going to be able to save a lot of money for yourself, and also be able to divert that money into profitable investment opportunities for yourself. Another thing which I'm going to talk about is number 6, which is creating additional streams of income. Creating additional streams of income. You see, the world is experiencing inflation now, and the price of goods and services have actually gone up. But unfortunately, our income has not increased. Our incomes have not increased. The income is still the same, but inflation is going up and climbing and going at a very top or high velocity. So inflation is going up, income is not growing up, or it's not going up. And at the end of the day, what happens? That means that there's going to be loss of value in money. That is, when you take money to the market, you may not be able to use that money to buy a lot of things before that money will get exhausted. Now, what do you do in this situation where there's actually what I call, inflationary trend in the country. What you need to do is to create what I call multiple streams of income. What is a multiple streams of income? Multiple streams of income means that you should be able to create other mediums of earning money. You should look for other mediums of earning money. Gone are those days where people actually rely on one primary source of income. You need multiple streams of income to survive in this economic trend. Now, inflation is high and you need to survive. You need to feed your family. You need to send your children to school. You need to pay your house rent. You need to pay for other miscellaneous. You also have a lot of people in your family that are depending on you, and you need to take care of them. So your parents, your mother, your father, and the rest of them, and your in-laws and the rest of them. So you can imagine the load is very, very high. The challenges are very, very high. So in this situation, you need to create what I call multiple streams of income, other means of earning money. You can create this by creating what I call, or investing your money into profitable investment, or creating what I call passive income, something that will generate money for you. And what are those passive income? They include affiliate marketing. They will include what I call freelancing. They include what I call e-commerce. They include what I call window cleaning and car cleaning. You know, once you come back from your office, once you come back from your primary source of income, you can go out there and still look for more money for you to be able to sustain yourself and be able to invest more at the end of the day. Because depending on one source of income may not actually help you at the end of the day. I know people that they actually go to the office, and once they close in the office, instead of them to drive home with their car, they use the car for Uber. They use the car to take people from one place to the other. And before you know it, they are making more money for themselves and being able to invest and save and also spend money and also improve their lifestyle, including that of their family. And they are also able to fulfill their numerous financial challenges that comes their way. So you need what we call creating what I call multiple streams of income, or passive income, or multiple means of creating money for yourself apart from your primary source of income. Number 7 thing which I'm going to talk about is what I call using your money for its true function. Using money for its true function. You see, when you say money, money is a medium of exchange. Money facilitates growth. Money facilitates improvement. Money brings about a good life. Money improves our life, our state of living, or standard of living. Money is very, very crucial in our life. Whether you are poor, you are middle class, or rich class, money is very, very important. And it is very important. You need to know how to use money. You need to understand the function of money effectively for you to be able to use money effectively. You see, let me give you a scenario or this example. Among the poor, in every society, we have the poor, the middle class, and the rich people. But each of these classes of people, they see money differently. The rich people see money differently, the poor people see money differently, and the middle class people see money differently. Now, let's analyze it. If you are actually in the poor class or the lower class, people that are in this class believe that money exists to pay bills and to fund their lifestyle. Those that are in the lower class believe that money is meant to pay for their bills and also to fund their lifestyle. That is for those that are in the lower class. For the middle class, they believe that money exists to build their credit scores in order to have access to bigger loans. And when they have access to these bigger loans, what did they do with the money? They use that money to buy cars, to live in expensive apartments. They use that money to go on expensive vacation. They use that money flamboyantly. They use that money extravagantly. They use that money in buying liabilities. Do you get it now? That is for the middle class. Then for the upper class, or for the rich, you see, for the rich people, they believe that money is for expansion. That is, money is for expansion. That is, you use money to get more money. Do you get it now? They believe that money is a tool, and as a tool, it should be put into operation. Money is meant to work for them. So you can see that these 3 classes of people, they see money differently. For consider that money is a tool, and as a tool, it must be used there effectively. The rich people make money to work for them through multiple streams of income and creating what I call passive income. Multiple streams of income and passive income. So the rich actually invest their money into stocks. They invest their money into mutual funds. They invest their money into rental estate. They invest their money into crypto. They invest their money where the money is actually working for them. But for the middle class, money is meant to increase their credit scores and have access to more bigger loans. But for the lower class of people, money is meant for paying bills and increasing their lifestyle. So which class do you actually belong to, or which perception of the class do you actually think, or how do you think about money? Are you in the lower class, the middle class, or the richer class? So you need to belong to the rich class because when you're actually in the rich class, that makes you to be wealthy. When you are actually in the rich class, that means that you have financial education and you are investing your money very, very well. If you actually belong to the rich class, you could invest the money into stock market, into crypto, into real estate or rental properties, and so many other things like that. So you can see that if you want to actually be rich in life, there are some certain life hacks that you need to know, and you need to understand the function of money, and you need to know the class of the class you actually belong to in the society, and you need to have what we call financial education for you to be able to invest your money very, very well. Money actually works for those that actually knows how to use the money effectively. You need to learn how to use money effectively so that money can actually multiply and compound for you, and money can work more for you. So if you have actually gained something in this video, please subscribe now, and don't forget to share this video to the outside world. Till I see you next time, thank you and God bless you.